Early autumn in Asheville, North Carolina, was like standing inside a watercolor painting someone forgot to let dry. The mornings started cool and sharp, the afternoons softened into golden warmth, and the evenings glowed with the scent of wood smoke and coffee from the corner cafes. Maple leaves flirted between red and orange, tourists shuffled along the cobblestone sidewalks, and locals pretended not to notice the camera phones aimed at murals they'd passed 1,000 times. In a narrow townhouse on Charlotte Street, Noah Reynolds, 37, stared at an hourglass on his kitchen counter. It wasn't special, just a $12 purchase from a craft shop, but somehow it had become his morning ritual. Every day, he flipped it, watched the sand fall, and promised himself he'd get things done before it emptied. Most days, the sand won. He took a sip of his lukewarm coffee and sighed. New day, same motivation, he muttered. Somewhere between procrastination and enlightenment. In the great hourglass of life, the narrator intoned playfully, Noah had a habit of staring at the sand and calling it meditation. The kitchen smelled faintly of toast and unfinished ambition. His laptop hummed with unopened emails. The TV in the background ran a news segment about finding balance in a fast-paced world. Noah snorted. Balance? I'm just trying not to trip over laundry. Outside, the street came alive. A kid zoomed by on an electric scooter wearing a dinosaur helmet. Mrs. Clark, his retired neighbor, swept her porch with the enthusiasm of someone auditioning for a cleaning commercial, and the mailman waved like a man who'd already earned his step count for the day. Noah threw on a plaid shirt, grabbed his backpack, and headed out for his usual morning restart walk. He didn't jog, that required optimism, but he moved fast enough to look like he was escaping something, probably himself. At the corner cafe, Maple Bean, barista Samantha, Sam, Blake, a 29-year-old with tattoos and an ironic smile, handed him his regular, black coffee, extra honesty. Rough morning? She asked. He gestured vaguely. Let's just say I'm in the preloading stage of productivity. Sam laughed. That sounds terminal. Not yet, Noah said. Still breathing, not achieving. As he sipped his coffee, he saw the town's community board, a collage of flyers for yoga, dog adoptions, book clubs, and time management workshops. One in particular caught his eye. Turn the hourglass, restart your routine. Free workshop, Saturday at the library. He chuckled. That's suspiciously specific. Sam raised an eyebrow. The universe sends hints, usually laminated. By noon, Noah found himself sitting in his living room surrounded by half-hearted attempts at organization. A pile of mail he'd meant to open, a list of goals titled, The New Me version 3.0, and the hourglass, now empty again. He flipped it. The sand began falling once more, soft and steady. That night, as rain pattered against the window and the neighborhood settled into its quiet hum, Noah scrolled through social media. Everyone seemed to be thriving. He paused on a post by his old college roommate, Eli, now a travel photographer in Iceland, standing under a waterfall with a caption that read, Time isn't slipping away if you're moving with it. Noah sighed. Easy to say when your job is chasing waterfalls, Eli. He didn't know it yet, the narrator teased, but the hourglass wasn't done with him. And neither was life. The next morning began the same, drizzle, coffee, sarcasm. But something, maybe boredom, maybe curiosity, nudged him toward that community workshop. He arrived late, naturally. Inside, 10 people sat in folding chairs surrounded by self-help posters. The facilitator, Clara Jensen, 50s, upbeat and sharp, greeted him warmly. Welcome. Grab an hourglass, she said. A table was lined with sand timers of all sizes. This feels oddly symbolic, Noah murmured. That's the point, Clara replied with a grin. The exercise was simple. Flip your hourglass, write one thing you've been putting off, and do it before time runs out. Around him, people scribbled furiously, call mom, finish novel, clean garage. Noah hesitated, then wrote, start again. He didn't know what that meant, exactly. Work, routine, life, all of it. As the sand trickled down, Clara said, sometimes, we think we've run out of time. But maybe the trick is realizing, we can turn it again. For the first time in months, Noah smiled without irony. He left the library that evening to the sound of distant thunder and the smell of wet pavement. The streetlights flickered on, puddles reflected golden halos, and the rain softened everything into a quiet glow. He walked home slower than usual, hourglass in hand, feeling oddly lighter. Progress doesn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes, it just drips, grain by grain, until you realize you're moving again. The next morning broke brighter, literally and metaphorically, over Asheville. The storm had rinsed the air clean, leaving the sky an impossible shade of blue. Sunlight spilled through Noah's blinds, landing right on the hourglass sitting on his desk like a miniature monument to try again. He rolled out of bed, hair in full rebellion, and blinked at it. "All right, sand," he muttered, "you win. Let's move." Sometimes, it's not the grand revelations that change a man. It's the tiny embarrassments of yesterday refusing to let go. Noah's first act of change. Cleaning his kitchen. Not glamorous, but revolutionary. Dishes clanked, Spotify hummed, and he danced badly, truly terribly, between countertops. Even Mrs. Clark peeked through her window, then smiled, muttering, "Well, miracles do happen." By late morning, he was at Maple Bean again, sipping coffee with Sam, who looked mildly shocked. "You're up early," she teased. "Had a date with Destiny," Noah said. "She brought sponges." Sam laughed. "I'll drink to that." She nodded at the hourglass sitting on the counter. "That your new life coach?" "Pretty much," Noah said. "It doesn't talk back or charge hourly." Asheville had that peculiar charm where strangers became acquaintances just by existing in the same café for too long. By noon, Noah had met Eddie, a college dropout turned street musician, Grace, a retired nurse with a pottery obsession, and Devon, a high school teacher grading papers between cappuccinos. They all seemed stuck in their own sandstorms, unfinished dreams, paused projects, someday plans. When Noah mentioned the Hourglass workshop, Grace leaned forward. "You mean the one at the library? I missed it. How was it?" "Surprisingly, uncringe," Noah said. "Less kumbaya, more kick in the pants." Eddie grinned. "Man, maybe I need one of those. My guitar's been gathering dust since 2020. "Bring it tomorrow," Noah said impulsively. I don't know, turn it again." And just like that, a small-town cafe became a midlife crisis support group. Only with better coffee. Over the next week, an unofficial routine formed. Every morning, the same ragtag group gathered at Maple Bean, flipped the hourglass Sam kept behind the counter, and tackled something, anything, before the sand ran out. Grace sketched pottery designs. Eddie played covers of songs no one requested but everyone secretly loved. Devon finally emailed his grad school application. Even Mrs. Clark started showing up, pretending she just needed fresh biscotti, though she stayed until the sand ran empty. And Noah, he started applying for new design gigs, small freelance work, bits of progress that didn't feel monumental, but felt like motion. His apartment got cleaner, his mind, lighter. But, as life tends to do, progress came with a side of irony. One Thursday morning, mid-coffee sip, Noah's laptop died. Not the needs charging kind, the blue screen of existential dread kind. "Of course," he said flatly. "My productivity streak scared it." Sam leaned over the counter. "That thing's been dying since Biden's first year." Noah groaned. "And I just sent in 2 proposals." "Hey," she said with a smirk, "every time the sand runs out, you flip it, right?" "Yeah, but this sand's made of microchips." Still, he laughed, because for once, the frustration didn't stick. He took it as a sign to step away, walk the town, breathe. That afternoon, the whole group met at Pack Square Park, a green slice of Asheville life framed by murals and buskers. They brought coffee, hourglasses, and stories. Eddie played a clumsy version of "Don't Stop Believin'," while Grace passed around clay charms she'd made, tiny hourglasses shaped like hearts. Mrs. Clark told everyone she'd signed up for a digital art class. "At my age," she said proudly, "I'm learning Photoshop. The icons are tiny, but so am I." Everyone cheered. Noah looked around, at this weird, unplanned little community, and smiled. "Guess we're all just turning it again," he said softly. In a world obsessed with speed, they'd found comfort in slowness. In trying again, in the sound of laughter louder than ticking. Weeks rolled on. Autumn deepened into amber afternoons. Noah landed a new design contract with a local eco startup. Nothing flashy, but fulfilling. On his first day, he packed his laptop, took one last look at the hourglass, and flipped it before walking out. The sand fell steady as ever, calm, patient, unhurried. That evening, he and the group gathered again under twinkling lights outside Maple Bean. Sam had taped a handwritten sign to the window, "Turning again hour, 6 p.m. Bring your hourglass, bring your heart." People from around town joined, some strangers, some familiar faces. The air buzzed with the smell of espresso, laughter, and wet leaves. Someone started a spontaneous toast. "To second chances," Devon said. "To unfinished business," Grace added. "To Wi-Fi that actually works," Sam joked. And Noah, raising his mug, finished it off. To turning again, because maybe the point isn't to finish faster. It's to keep flipping. The crowd cheered. The hourglasses flipped. Sand began falling in soft harmony. Above them, the clock tower chimed 8. A breeze swept through, stirring the fallen leaves into a slow spiral. For once, time didn't feel like an enemy. It felt like an invitation. And so, in a small mountain town that ran on coffee and second chances, an ordinary man learned an extraordinary truth. Life isn't about running out of time. It's about remembering you can always turn it again.
Like and subscribe if you want to be happy and motivate.